bring in Albert Breer, the senior NFL reporter and lead content strategist for the Monday Morning Quarterback. Without Derrick Henry, what kind of team are the Tennessee Titans?
Like the last 2 weeks, like you said, Dan, his production hasn't been what we gotten used to it being. And they found different ways to win. But I think as well as I do, like part of the fact that they're able to produce in other areas of the game is the fact that the defense is game planning for Derrick Henry and he changes everything for you. So, he's one of the most important non-quarterbacks, maybe the most important non-quarterback to his team in the NFL. And the drop off from him to Jeremy McNichols is going to be pretty big. So, you take him out of the equation. I think now that 3-game lead that they took on the Colts yesterday with that win looks less insurmountable. And now it's Ryan Tannehill's got to go earn his paycheck, right? And now this is where AJ Brown's got to make his money, and where the whole Julio Jones trade has to come in. It's just. So many things there were built around Derrick Henry and have been built around Derrick Henry the last 2+ years, and now you sort of have to reconfigure who you are because, Jeremy McNichols is a nice player, but the drop off from Henry to McNichols when you're talking about a guy you can build your offense around is massive.
The Saints quarterbacking situation is interesting. Taysom Hill was in concussion protocol. Trevor Siemian comes to the rescue. Jameis Winston, I don't know the severity of that, but I know he was dancing on crutches after the win, but I don't know if that's just, hey, I'm going to have surgery here. Do you know anything about Jameis Winston this morning yet, Albert?
Yeah, I know that they're bracing for the news that, that confirms the ACL tear and that this is going to be it for the season for him. And, it's going to be interesting seeing what they do going forward. Somebody there told me last night, just don't assume that it's automatically going to be Taysom Hill or that we're just going to go straight with Taysom Hill as the quarterback when he's back off the concussion. The point was raised to me because, this guy who I was talking to said, we don't really have like a massive amount of playmakers versus where they had been in the past when they had, Brandon Cooks and, Marcus Colston and Jimmy Graham, all those guys over the years, they're not in that spot right now, especially with Michael Thomas still not playing. And so, I know that there was at least a thought, would we be better off with Trevor Siemian as the quarterback and then Taysom Hill in sort of a slash type of role or a platoon? And normally you'd say like, well, you don't want to be, having a quarterback shuttle will never work in the NFL. And you don't want to be messing with that because it'll screw with the continuity of your offense. But if there's one coach who'd be willing to try it and who'd be comfortable trying it, it's the one down in New Orleans, right?
I think it makes the most sense that, just like you said, they don't have weapons. They have Alvin Kamara. And if I can have Simeon as the quarterback and probably fits a little bit more of what they're used to with Drew Brees, and then I can have Taysom Hill, and at least I can interject him into the offense as well. I think with that defense, just keep us in the game, that's all.
Yeah.
And keep it close and, we can help you win. But to me, that probably makes the most sense. What's the game that you came away from going, what just happened?
I would say, the Saints game, I think it was interesting, but they swept them last year in the regular season. And I think people underrate the talent on the Saints. We get so fixated on the quarterback, I don't think people fully grasp how good the team around Drew Brees was at the end of his career and how they were sort of carrying him more than the other way around at the end, So
now you can't see Drew Brees coming back, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers maybe, but I don't think. I think you make your calls if you're Sean Payton. Now you call Brees, you call Rivers, you see what shape those guys are in. Because you still feel like you've got a team capable of winning a championship. This team's been knocking on the door for 5 years now. Brees or no Brees, that's still a roster full of guys who are in the prime of their career. So I think, if you're Sean Payton, you don't just stand pat. You turn over every rock and see what you might be able to find out there.
Phillip Rivers.
Shoot, do you take a swing at Deshaun Watson now?
Well, you will get him.
Because your cap situation sucks, but they've always been able to solve that. You know what I mean? They've always been able to find a way Do you take a while? Because that's the other thing, that franchise has been willing to move draft picks in the past for veteran players. They have not been shy about doing that because they're so confident in their ability to draft and develop. They feel like they don't need the surplus of picks that other teams do. So they've been willing to give up picks in the past, sort of like the Rams are. So, I mean, if you're them, do you take a wild swing at Deshaun Watson now? I'm not suggesting it's going to happen, but I think Sean will turn over every rock, and so whether it's making a phone call on Watson or calling Rivers and seeing, hey, when your high school season's over, would you want to come out? I just think you have to, though, Dan. That's the thing, is because to me, it's like, just rattle off the names on that roster and how many guys are right in the heart of the prime of their careers. And, your Kamaras, your Ryan Ramchicks, your Cam Jordans is on the back end, Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, Demario Davis, like so many guys that are right either in the heart of the prime of their careers or on the back nine. And, I just feel like they've still got an opportunity to compete at a really high level. And maybe this opens the door for them to do something creative that they wouldn't have thought of had Jameis not gone down.
We're talking to Albert Breer, the senior NFL reporter, lead strategist for the Monday Morning Quarterback. You can read his column this morning. Cooper Kupp is having one of the greatest seasons, the greatest start to a season for a wide receiver in over 50 years. Mm-hmm. Why is he not getting any credit?
Because I think most of the people who go through that offense don't get credit. It goes to McVay. And whether or not that's fair or not, I don't know. But, you look at the skill position players who've gone through there, with the exception of Gurley. I think most of those guys have been seen as sort of a creation of McVay. Robert Woods, I think the same way.
Yeah.
And they clearly value both those guys. Both those guys are making $16, $17 million a year. So it's not like they don't value them. But I do think that there's maybe a little bit of a perception out there that skill position players who go through there are to some degree a product of the system. And that's why I think people are so excited to see what Matthew Stafford looks like in it, because you had Jared Goff, who was another guy who was seen as the product of the system in the last few years. So what happens when you put a true franchise type talent in there, and we've seen the results. So I think that's really it, is that, Cooper Kupp's never played anywhere else, got drafted, wasn't a first round pick. And I think part of, playing there is so many people have had success. So many skill position players have had success coming through that system that now every guy who does have that sort of success, no matter how much they reward him or tell you with the money, how much he means to them and everything else, everybody's sort of seen as a cog in the machine.
Cooper Kupp is the first player in the Super Bowl era with at least 900 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns through his team's first 8 games of a season. Pretty good stuff.
Pretty good. Good.
Did the Jets find their quarterback yesterday?
It's weird, isn't it? How they put him in, and Josh Johnson went in the middle of that game, and he looked okay too. So I don't know if it makes you raise some questions about Zach Wilson and how ready he was to play in the NFL, because I think there were some people that looked at that across the NFL and said, is there has the staff done enough with Zach Wilson, and you have a first-time coordinator there, and they went through a tragedy on their offensive staff over the summer, but they lost the guy who was going to be the most experienced guy, on that staff list on the offensive side of the ball. And so I think there were a lot of people, inside the league that were thinking, are they doing enough to help Zach Wilson? And then you throw Mike White in there, and my God, he looks competent, and this isn't just this week. He looked competent when they threw him in against the Patriots last week too. So yeah, I think it's fair to ask some of those questions. And I've heard some of those questions that Zach has a ways to go as far as learning just how to run an NFL offense and how to take house money. You know what I mean? Not try to turn every play into a 70-yard touchdown. And I think you're sort of seeing it now. And maybe it's good for Zach Wilson to get to see someone else running the offense. But yeah, Mike White makes, you watch Mike White, it's why did they trade for Joe Flacco? I was sort of thinking that last week too. Yeah. Even after the way he came in and stabilized things against the Patriots when they were getting blown out, you could see a little something there. And I think it definitely carried over to this week where it's maybe they shouldn't have thrown the draft pick away for Joe Flacco.
The Cowboys, I thought, made the right decision, even if they had lost to the Vikings, that you don't have, Dak Prescott. I got to look for the bigger picture here. What happened last year? And, you got a team that can compete in the NFC. And, Cooper Rush comes in and they didn't miss him. But, I think the bigger question I have is still about the Minnesota Vikings, Albert, because if you have a good quarterback, you're in no man's land. You need to have a great quarterback or it feels like you start over. You got Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's not great, not elite, but it feels like that's a team stuck in neutral.
Yeah, and if I guess the analogy would be if you're the Wilfs right now, do you ask, are we the 45-win NBA team, right? Like the team that's like just good enough to never get the franchise player, that is just sort of stuck there, and you're going out in the first or second round every year and you're spinning your wheels. And they have like talent in the roster. I actually think like the front office has done a good job of kind of replenishing the talent there and bringing in younger guys. You look at the way they've like kind of swapped out guys, like Stephon Diggs is out. Then, Justin Jefferson comes in the backfield. They lose Adrian Peterson. He gets older. Dalvin Cook comes in. The way they've replaced some guys on the offensive line. Darisaw has played pretty well for them. They've just sort of constantly been able to, I guess, like replenish certain positions. And you wonder, is that what's holding them back? Is the coaching what's holding them back? Because, I love Mike Zimmer as a coach, but they've sort of been in this spot. Like they've sort of been the same team since he got there, right? Like up one year, down the next. That they sort of peaked out in 2017 with Case Keenum as their quarterback and going to the NFC title game. So, I think if they continue on this path, and you were sitting there at the end of the season and they're like 10-7 or 9-8, and they either just made the playoffs or they're just out. Like, I think it's fair to ask those questions. And look, like, I think internally they've asked those questions too, because, like Zimmer was sort of a sleeper name a couple of years ago as a guy who could wind up out, and he survived and got an extension. And then they kicked the tires really hard on Justin Fields in the spring to the point where that was who the Bears were trying to get in front of to get Fields. And so maybe they don't trade down and maybe they wind up with Justin Fields if he slips a couple more spots. I think those questions have been asked internally. And you wonder if like that doesn't lead to some change after this year. If things don't change, if they don't wind up like 13-4, 12-5 or whatever, like, are they just sitting there spinning their wheels?
I was really surprised at this. The Browns should have won that game against the Steelers. I mean, you're hosting the Steelers. You should still win those games. But Baker Mayfield had this to say after the game about the media.
Within the sports media world, it's going to be the world's falling down. We're going to handle it within the building and make the corrections we need to execute. We have a good enough team. It's just that we're kicking ourselves in the foot right now, stubbing our toes, and just build 1 week at a time. That's why I said we're going to chip away. There's no big picture mindset. We got to chip away 1 week at a time, and we'll do just that.
Okay.
How do you kick yourself in the foot?
I don't know, unless it's one foot kicks the other foot. But I think you shoot yourself in the foot. But hey, why does he care about the media? Like,
because he always has.
That's part of the
he's
problem.
Had rabbit ear. It's part of what like drives him, right? Wasn't this the guy he was at Oklahoma too? Like he had rabbit ears. Like, I don't care they needed my own water, but that's what the flag was, right? That's what the flag planning was having rabbit ears, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but the media
it's part
loves
of who he
the
is,
Browns.
Though.
The media covers the Browns far more than the Browns deserve.
I know what you're saying, but like I don't like. Yes, you're right, because I think there's like that. There's been that circus element to it. Now it's like, are they no longer the circus? Because I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry and those guys did an effective job of kind of calming it down. I think there is a fair question to ask: is he starting to feel it though? Like, I am now playing for my job, because he doesn't have a contract, and generally quarterbacks the first round quarterbacks historically, if you look at it, the first round quarterbacks who go through 3 years and then don't get a big extension, like after that third year, just usually don't get that extension period. I don't know if there's one case where the team waited and then after year 4, Andrew Luck is the one case, which is where it was like, that was just like, wait a year and we'll do it. Right. But it's very rare that a team doesn't just give the guy the extension after the third year. So I'm sure he's feeling it a little bit too. and that now like a 3-1 start has become 4-4. And if they don't win the playoffs, I mean, that's a pretty complete roster, right? So where are they going to look to upgrade? And I think the obvious thing would be, can we afford to have this guy on our roster at $40 to $45 million a year? That's a very real question, you know? And so, like, I think Baker probably feels it a little bit, feels that pressure a little bit. And he knows that everybody's looking at him and pointing at him and saying, is he good enough? And yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask. And I think, you know, if you gave Andrew Berry truth serum, he would tell you, like right now, like for the rest of this year, it's Baker Mayfield versus Deshaun Watson. It's Baker Mayfield versus Aaron Rodgers. It's Baker Mayfield versus Russell Wilson. It's Baker Mayfield versus whoever might be out there available for us in February and March when we have to make a decision on what we want to do at the position going forward.
I'll leave you with this. These standalone games, everybody has an opinion the day after. Kansas City tonight. How important is to win this game and win with style points?
I don't think it's, you know, what's funny is like people have said that style points, like why doesn't it look the way it used to? I think like if you talk to enough people in the league, you even talk to people in that building, what they'll tell you is they don't need the style points. They need to do the routine stuff better, right? Like, so they've got this completely reworked offensive line. And that's been a problem, no question. Orlando Brown going right to left hasn't worked out quite the way that they hoped it would. And when your left tackle isn't right, that can create problems elsewhere. You know, but really, like, how do you manage that? Okay, well, you can manage that by running the ball effectively. They're not calling enough run plays. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is hurt. I understand that. But like, that's one way to calm down the offensive line problem. What's another way to calm down the offensive line problem? For Mahomes to take the easy money, to check the ball down, to throw the ball short. So he's not holding it as long. So it doesn't expose the issue. He's not doing that. You know, is Mahomes playing too much like he did at Texas Tech? Like, are we seeing that guy who felt like he had to take the team on his shoulders too much? And he's not doing the routine thing. And then on defense, it's the two guys that you paid. It's Frank Clark and it's Chris Jones. Like, are those guys coming anywhere close to what they're getting paid? They've been banged up. They've been average when they've been out there, and not having those guys play at the level that they've played at the last couple of years has exposed an ordinary back seven. So I think a lot of this stuff is pretty simple. It's on offense. Can they make the routine play, right? Like, can they make the routine play? Can they go to people other than Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill? And can Mahomes play like a more conservative game? And then defensively, I mean, the offense playing more conservatively would help the defense, right? Like, because now you're maybe shortening the game a little bit, which isn't their comfort zone, but maybe what you have to do here. Can you get your best players on defense playing better? To me, it's like 2, 3, 4. If you talk to people in that building, it's like 2, 3, 4 very simple things, but you can't say with any certainty that it's just going to click and happen.
Great to talk to you as always. Thank you, bud.
All right. Thanks for having me, Dan.
That's Albert Breer, the Monday morning quarterback. Why do I feel like the Giants are going to lead tonight 3-0?